Here's the series layout for this Quadrant versus Sentinels matchup. And Tony, you know I'm coming to you, mate, always. You have the stats, you've always analyzed everything before it happens. How are you feeling about this layout for either or teams? You know, if you're looking upon this Strongholds live fire to begin, and Sentinels, they're going to be looking to really make a statement here. So if I was Quadrant, I'd be trying to win the first couple. That kind of King of the Hill recharge makes me a little bit nervous because Sentinels look pretty good on that too.
Yeah, I feel like Sentinels are definitely a really good Strongholds team, but I feel like when we're talking about Strongholds and Quadrant, how can we not talk about the fact that at one point in time, Quadrant were the greatest Strongholds team that we have ever seen? And I'm not just being like what do they call it, hyperbolic? I don't know how to say it, oh my gosh. but I'm being real. Like, they were literally the greatest Strongholds team that we have seen in Halo Infinite. So I will say, Quadrant, they want to see that live fire game #1, even though Sentinels are darn good Strongholds team.
But I think that's a really interesting point, though. So yes, they were unbelievably strong on Strongholds, excuse the puns. But LethuL, they're not the same roster anymore. They're not the same team. They haven't quite got that same dynamic. They don't have Legend, they don't have Chick. There was something about them that was almost mechanical, like a machine on Strongholds, and it was so hard to go up against. I worry about that. I do feel like when you do lose a half of your team, are the same strengths here? Or are we looking at something completely different?
It is a big question mark, yes, and some people may debate whether Strongholds is still one of their best game modes. I still think it is. I think this map and this game mode in particular is one of the best starts to get out the gate strong against Sentinels as well. And you've got players like Glory, like he tweets an overkill on live fire every week, I feel like. He literally could have his own top 10 in 2 months. And I think this is the perfect way to start things off against Sentinels, the perfect way to at least continue into the ball play aggressively and to make sure to get into the upper bracket as well. I think that's the perfect way to start. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about for Quadrant is the Argyle CTF. You know, when it gets a little bit more structured and less chaotic and there's way to coordinate a way around these kind of setups or these pushes or the aggressive maneuvers they make, this is where Quadrant may struggle a little bit here and there, especially on the size of a map like Argyle. So I reckon this could go all the way.
Oh.
I'm going to add on there, and I'm going to say that there's no way that Quadrant beats Sentinels on CTF Argyle. With their CTF struggles, on top of the fact that Sentinels are an amazing Argyle team and it really plays towards their playstyle, I'm going to agree with you 100%. I don't think there's a way that Quadrant win that map, but other maps, different story.
You know what? Sentinels will win the first one instead, and Quadrant will win the CTF probably.
Okay, there we go. That's it. We're done. That's it. Can we just leak the script? We're going to get in trouble.
That's fine.
Uh-oh, folks. If you see either of them being dragged away, you know what happened. You know what happened. Yeah, I do see this actually being a really, really good series, and hopefully it does go the distance because we like to see the competition get fierce and get feisty. So that would be absolutely amazing. Yeah, really excited about this. Our first look, honestly, our hometown team. I know that they have been, you know, doing things in the background, and we haven't got to see them yet on the main stage, but I'm really excited about how this one's going to turn out. If you guys have predictions, who do you see taking this? Go on, Tony. Go on. Just go for it. What's your gut telling you?
Treat yourself. Go on.
All right. I'm going to run away after I say Sentinels.
Oh.
Sorry. I got Sentinels winning it, and I'm going to say, you know what? Why not say 3-2? Let's go all the way down to a game 5, but I might get run out of here.
Oh, we're getting some claps.
Why'd you do this to me? I'm going
to say exactly the same, but because we're on home soil, let's go for Quadrant.
You're going to go for Quadrant. I like that. Wait, hold on. But that was a little bit of a cop-out, folks. Did you hear that? Just because we're on home soil. That's not a good enough reason. You need to give the fans some belief.
I'm allowed to be a little bit biased.
That is true. But no, for real though, Harry, obviously you wouldn't have said that if that was out of the realm of possibility. So you do see Quadrant being able to take this from Sentinels.
I think the possibility's there. Like, in terms of the probability, Sentinels probably will go in that direction, which is understandable. But it really does depend on the first and fourth game. And even if you get that far, and depending on how position plays as well. If he plays how he does in the scrim, then yeah, 3-2 all the way.
All right, well, listen, folks, we're about to get into this main stage matchup. I don't care where you're from, but especially if you're from the UK, I need you to make some noise because our hometown team are coming out. Let's meet Quadrant.
Welcome to Quadrant. More than a name, it's a beacon for the elite, where the relentless pursuit of excellence knows no bounds. From the revving engines of motorsport to the daring tricks on ramps, our athletes consistently perform at the highest level.
Sentinels wins race 2.
Now, this spirit transcends to the arenas of Halo, where esports athletes gear up, not just to compete, but to conquer. They are strategists, warriors, and champions. They are athletes.
Wobbling them wings into the overkill.
Join us as worlds collide, where the physical meets the digital, where legends rise and heroes are forged under the banner of Quadrant.
Glory taken down. 2 dead here for Na'Vi. Make it 3. Oh, there
Witness the fusion of top-tier entertainment and cutting-edge competition. Witness history.
SLG finds 2.
Rockets are up. Legend wants to make a play. SLG pushing up with the stalker. He's feeling confident, and that's gonna be it.
Oh my God, Quadrant, they create history.
Halo, welcome to Europe.
You doing? I am so excited to get this next series started. Are you ready for this? Make some noise for yourselves. We are in the Iron Fortress in our first ever HCS London event. And it's time to make some noise for the hometown team. Get ready to get loud for Quadrant! Fortress with their fans behind them. Make some noise, London. Give it up for Sica, SLG, Snipedrone, and Glory coming to the main stage to join their coach Kronos to defend the Iron Fortress. Their fans behind them. Let's go. Get ready and get into this matchup. One more time. Are you ready, London, to get this series started? Jersey, Gaskin, let's go.
Thanks so much, guys. It's the hometown heavyweights up against the US invasion. Can Quadrant get the job done here and now?
I mean, I'm sure the crowd are certainly hoping it's going to be that way. That was one of the coolest moments so far this tournament. But a lot of pressure when you are the hometown heroes, when you have the crowd watching you from behind. And I'm sure that Quadrant, they would have enjoyed that moment of being able to celebrate. But now you need to give the fans a real reason to celebrate. And Sentinels is going to be a very difficult task.
And you mentioned the pressures of being the hometown team. We've seen Optic Gaming in the past struggle with that. SSG, the only one to actually defend their hometown. And is that a pressure you're looking to deal with?
I think that these guys know how to deal with said pressure. Had this been, years ago, I may have been saying, this is maybe a far-fetched idea, but the Quadrant boys are the real deal now. And Sentinels will know that the crowd's going to be on the side of Quadrant, and that's another thing we need to mention. They're very close. It's a very intimate place. It's a very intimate arena that they're in, and they're going to hear, potentially, that crowd and how much they're going to favor Quadrant here. It's really going to be like a home and away match when you're watching football.
I mean, speaking of, home and away match, what an away dressing room, an away coach would say is, let's silence the crowd, give them nothing at the start, make sure it's almost as quiet as a, I don't know, some sort of fortress.
It needs to be, and that map 1 is going to be so important. The Live Fire Strongholds, even though we've known that Quadrant are a side that dominated Strongholds for quite some time, and even with the changes, they still find so much success when it comes to it. If Sentinels can find a victory there, it would silence this room. It would give the fans a reason to be like, okay, maybe Quadrant can't quite do it. But then again, it's up to the fans to just try and get behind Quadrant to ensure that they can be that 5th man.
And Quadrant, of course, coming off the back of a top 8 finish, which they would have been pretty disappointed with. They've done as well as they possibly could, but Sentinels on the other side of things, Dan, a top 16 finish. We know the troubles that they had. Things have got to get better, and they should do.
Yeah, changes for the Sentinels side, of course, seeing a different fielded roster because of, you'd imagine, the poor performance that we saw in Arlington, but if we look at this roster and what they're capable of and what they did during the online section of leading up to this tournament, they look like a completely different side who are ready to prove that they should be towards the top end of the tournament, not down in the top 16.
Looking at the series layout, Dan, you're the stats man. You've always got something to share. What have you got for me?
Well, Quadrant actually undefeated on live fire strongholds throughout the online portion leading up to the tournament and did find a victory on it during Arlington. So they carry on their fine form that what we saw in the 22-23 season. And now we're starting to see them find that form once again. So it is a perfect start here for Quadrant in one of their best game types with a chance to show what they're made of.
Live fire strongholds on the horizon. Quadrant looking to defend Europe, defend the honor. Still struggling with life after Legend, but maybe they can right some wrongs here and now. Sentinels here to upset the party. This one's going to be huge, Dan.
A massive game and a lot of pressure, as we said, as we are underway then between Quadrant and Sentinels. And Richie, it wouldn't feel right if you didn't say it.
Shields up, weapons up, we're underway.
We're underway, and now we need to see Sentinels start strong, start hot here to not allow Quadrant to get into their same sort of routine. Get that trip cap, get people on split spawns, consistently push them, make sure it can't happen.
Camo about to pop. A double cap for Sen, and a decent start. Precision's going to use that Quantum, just disappear and get behind Sica here. Desperately tries to get away. SLG, excuse me. And again, continues to Quantum, continues to change trajectory and get away. Sica looking to contest the camouflage, but will fall. Falcated drops down towards scoreboard, and Snipedrone will close the distance here. Going to be a straight 1v1, but it ultimately ends in a trade.
Of course, not as much statistics to back Sentinels with the recent team change, but they have yet to find a victory during any of their online games as a full roster in HCS tournaments. So we'll have to see if they can find a victory on this map, of course, is what I was stating. A nice early lead for them, 38 points already on the board, but now Quadrant with that camouflage, a real chance to turn the tide here. 3 dead for Sen, and there is that trip cap that Quadrant know they're capable of, and it gives the crowd finally something to scream about.
They're blooming good at this stronghold stuff. 3 dead for Sentinels, and they can continue to close the distance on those fresh spawners now. Glory hunting, maybe getting information as a player down bottom middle. And you can see he's aware of it. Helping his teammate over towards green. Killing spree locked in for the Irishman. Looking towards A. Turns his attentions now. Precision trying to stay alive desperately. Gets a kill. That could be huge to break this setup. Snipedrone will clean up the pieces.
And that should allow them to at least get B. LethuL will be able to turn that in their favor. Snipedrone can't quite lock anything down. I think that he was just trying to rescue at least a kill to trade out with. You can see the difference with Quadrant getting that trip cap and being aggressive on top of it. 57 points they put on the scoreboard. And Sentinels, they're going to be a little bit more a slower pace when it comes to their setups. They probably won't try and push the trip cap as often as Quadrant. But if we do see Sentinels get a trip cap, that's when we would need to see a response from Quadrant. How good are they at breaking a setup that they're so used to doing themselves?
Sentinels will try and play a little bit more cautious. Happy to slow the game down when they need to. For Quadrant, it's rock and roll. They want triple caps. They want as many points as they possibly can get. Precision gets one on the Glory, but not before he gets stuck. Let's talk about Precision, Dan. What a player he is. What a difference he can make to this team.
Yeah, what an addition it has been for Sentinels. I think having that Slayer power, that firepower that can be the clutch factor for them, it's just sent them with a new kind of a breath of life, I think, to this roster that so desperately needed it after the Arlington performance that we saw. And he can be that difference maker, someone to change things when you are struggling a little bit. And he might not be the biggest voice on the team, but sometimes you can say a lot more with your actions rather than words.
Glory gets 3 shots at the back, backs away. Bubu has the snipe. Face to face with Snipedrone. Puts him away. You spoke about Sentinels trying to get a triple cap, and they're threatening to do so here and now. And they will lock it in. Do Quadrant have an answer?
Yeah, this is going to be now the biggest moment of the game for Quadrant. How do they break this setup? The fact they've been able to shut down the sniper rifle, huge there. If we saw a connection with headshots, it would have been a very different game. But the Quadrant boys all pushing together. Yes, they get bubu down, but notice how Sentinels very quickly at bubu's feet to make sure that that sniper rifle doesn't go into someone else's hands. You don't want to give it to the likes of Snipedrone, the likes of SLG, who can do big, big things with it.
C secure. A and B, though. They're in Sentinels control. Quadrant have managed to step out for a moment. Glory has a sniper rifle and he can be lethal with it. Lines up Precision, does he? Yes, body shot connects. Precision backs away, takes the challenge, and the Irishman comes up big.
That's an important one as well, just for confidence to be getting these individual pivs and making sure that you just let Sentinels know you're here to play and you're not going to be faded by the occasion. And now A, B, and C locked down for Quadrant. Sentinels spawn over towards C, so a collapse is possible, but they try and go for it. Good from Glory, though, to listen to Sica's call out to make sure they actually mop up that extra damage. Glory starting to pop off.
Where's your head at? For Glory, it's inside A. Thinking of nothing but the win. They didn't clear out that player, and that could be a massive blunder. How did he get away?
Yeah, I think we were able to see it just because of the outlines, but sadly, they didn't quite catch it. But it doesn't look like it matters too much. Sentinels still with 3 dead, and look at how Quadrant are rotating around the map together. Very aware of where their teammates are, just staying within a certain distance. Are going to see Camo spawn, and it is going to be just popped into the chest of Bubu. And now this is going to be Sentinel's opportunity to try and break this setup that Quadrant have held now for a good lead. I mean, a 50-point lead they're close to.
Glory down shots, Lethal's there to help Bubu out. SLG feints to go one way, comes back for the fight, but Bubu shuts him down. 3 dead now for Quadrant. They still have control of A and B, but B is under threat now as Sentinels close in.
Yeah, temporarily they were still scoring as they spawned over towards A, but they knew they couldn't commit to B instantly. It would have been a very dangerous fight to take. The angles that could have been taken by Sentinels, but now they've dealt with the camouflage, they can start to be a little bit more aggressive with their pushes. Don't have to worry about someone hiding around the corner. And you saw Snipedrone, he saw that sniper rifle was coming up, but he said, actually, I need to go and help the rest of the team. But LethuL is taking that angle that I was talking of. You really need to just cover that big door. Don't allow people to push out for free.
LethuL, so much experience. So important to this team. A little bit of a scramble down bottom middle. It's a melee fest. Snipedrone places an elbow to the spine of one, gets a double kill, pushes forward, drives forward, Precision. Almost got put in the dirt. It was Falcated, excuse me. And now he has control of the sniper rifle, looking towards sandbags, just reloaded as that Sentinels player showed his pixels. Now, Elliot is trained on the big door. Someone stepped out, realized there was a stranger at the front door and backed away.
I do love it when you show me your pixels, but now Snipedrone just making sure he's staying far enough away so he doesn't get caught out here and can take angles. Gets overconfident, but I think that's because he knew he had the rest of the team there to support. 2 have gone down, but it is another trip cap, but only temporarily. C spawns for Sentinels. And this is always one of the better positions to take when there is C spawns. You can just shoot players as they drop down and usually unaware to your presence. No kills just yet for Sica, but a lot of damage. And does he know? He doesn't know, and that's a shame for him.
There's just been a couple of those so far. 3 dead for Quadrant. And a chance now for Precision to continue to jiggle peek against SLG. He's managed to stay alive for now, and that could be big, waiting for his teammates to get back on the respawn. Falcated in the 1v1s, SLG backs him down as well. This is very good from the Frenchman as he continues to fire off the back foot and keeps himself alive.
Someone who's been alive a lot, Precision, 20 kills at the moment, and I really think that's the main threat to Quadrant in this game, is they have to be aware that Precision is having one of those games, and you need to shut him down. Don't give him the chance to get a sniper rifle again. Glory's got camouflage and has the opportunity here to do something a little bit different. I do think it's important if your teammate has camouflage, you've got to be aware of it because you've got to mop that up. You don't want to get them into a beatdown trade and then you just throw away the camouflage, which is so valuable.
Glory going over top middle, 3 dead, LethuL. Last man alive. Fresh spawners from Sentinels over towards tower now. It's a 1v1 trade at the map. Bubu goes down, Falcated joins him. And Quadrant very close to that 250-point threshold that they need to secure game 1. Still a lot of work to be done, but so far, so good.
Be about to get locked in, and it's now a 70-point lead. On average, Quadrant win their Strongholds games by 70 points, so they're already in the driving seat, and they're looking to just push themselves over the finish line now. But we know Sentinels are a team that could come back into things right at the very death here. But Quadrant, they're locking in, they're watching big door. One last push here for Set.
How many times have we seen a team get stopped here and lose the game? They cannot do it, they cannot afford to. 2 go down for Sentinels, and that's enough for Quadrant to claim game 1.
A lot of noise here in Twickenham. And Sentinels, I'm sure they would have heard it as well. Such an important win for Quadrant. And it will just calm those nerves, calm those jitters that we were talking about.
The Icelandic clap at start. The crowd getting behind the team, quite literally. Those girls can probably smell Snipedrone from there.
A great smelling player, I will say. Snipedrone always makes sure he's got the deodorant on and the most fancy bit of perfume. But if we look back at the highlights of the first game, it was a little bit dicey to begin with for Quadrant. As we mentioned, maybe the nerves just on the side of them, but boy, when they started to lock in that triple cap, it just became too difficult for Sentinels. A few camo grabs that were very important as well. I will say there was a few snipes that probably made the difference from Glory.
When we talked about the series layout before this game started, you did say you expected to see Quadrant win the game, and with good reason. And as we look at the highlights and some of the plays that were made, Solitude Slayer is now on the horizon. What way did you see that one going?
I see this one going in favor of Quadrant as well. Again, another undefeated map for them throughout the online qualifiers and online tournaments. Yes, okay, it's European tournaments, and we have seen Quadrant dominate the region, but you've got to remember that Into the Breach are also part of that, so there is still a very competitive roster they have to constantly go up against. But Slayer Solitude in general has always favored a team like Quadrant. They just love the way the map works and how they can move around it, take some of those off angles and manipulate it to really force the other team into these difficult spots where they are in those split spawns, and then you can take advantage with constant push after constant push and just throttle them. That being said, Sentinels also know very much how to play a Solitude map. I mean, we always say it, you know, whoever played Halo 5 knows how to play Solitude, yada, 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 but this is going to be an interesting one and a very important one. If we see Sentinels go 2-0 down, that's when I think the belief maybe starts to dissipate and they start to get the same kind of feelings they had at Arlington of, is it going to happen again, right? Is this going to be another tournament where we just fall flat? We had such an impressive start when we were looking at our online performances, but now we're at LAN, now we're against Quadrant. Should we be beating these guys? Is this a team we should be able to take down?
And that is something that before Arlington coming into it, the form book, everybody suggested that Sentinels would be in that top 4. That's the way the predictions were going to be, and we found them fall short, and fall short pretty significantly as well. They bring in Precision to be the difference, to make the impact on the team. And with Slayer on Solitude, it's a bit faster paced. You want to try and spawn trap players, and it can be very easily done and very hard to break if you're on the other side of it. And are Sentinels capable of playing that faster type of Halo?
I think that's a good point. I think that one of the detriments of Sentinels is they do slow things down. I mean, they have players who have always wanted to slow down a game of Halo, and it can work in certain scenarios, but there are maps that don't allow you to do so, and Solitude may not be that map if you are behind. If you're ahead, you can slow it down, you can play in a way to really frustrate the opposition, but it's whether they actually get the opportunity to do so here.
Dan's had his prediction. He thinks it's going the way of Quadrant. Sentinels would love nothing more than to prove him wrong and to prove the crowd wrong as well. Only time will tell. Enough yapping from us, and what way it's going to go, we're about to find out.
Wow, early picks from both sides. Very quickly, hands on the shock rifle for Glory. We saw what he was able to do with the sniper rifle previously, and it does seem like Glory is the guy that goes for the power-ups. He is very much on top of it, listening to Kronos, their coach, making sure that he is grabbing it when it's available.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a deliberate play. The team are trying to get Glory hands-on with the sniper rifle, with the camouflage, and really capitalizing on the damage he's putting down.
Well, you want to give the power-ups to your playmaker, and Glory has been the playmaker for Quadrant. One of the reasons why they picked up Glory, why he was an addition to this team. He knows how fast to play the game, and he is someone who can have those pop-off moments. So it makes sense, but 7-2 in favor of Sentinels. Make it 9-2 now, where we talked about the team of Sentinels and what they're good at. They are very good at playing structured play when they have a lead. They now have that lead, and they could really frustrate Quadrant here.
Sentinels then look to build around this lead. LethuL goes down, Precision drops. Jiggle peeks to the pillar. Sica will join him in that fight and will win it this time. 2 dead. 12-6 the score now. Shock rifle in the hands of the Frenchman as he heads towards loop, up towards light rifle now. Seems to be caught between two minds of where to go, perhaps waiting for information from his team of where the team's going to spawn. S1 is the call. Precision almost loses his face, but spares his blushes for now. All of Sentinels appear to be trapped now on the low side, and this is the time for Quadrant to come and collapse.
2 shots that I've seen Sica hit time and time again, but again, maybe just a little bit cold coming into the first series. But they are getting back into the game. Only a 3-kill difference, make it 4 as LethuL starts to get a little bit frisky. Only 5 seconds till the next camo though. So I think if you are Sentinels and you start to become aware that Glory has tended to be the player who is going to be on that camouflage, on those power-ups, you start to look towards maybe sending someone who can challenge him, not allow him to do this, because Glory is a player who can really threaten you from behind.
I'll leave that there. 4 kills the difference then. Falcated will fall. Glory has got the camouflage. Snipedrone pushing forward. In the blue room, a little thrust. Not going to be enough to evade the attentions for bubu. Just starting to grow in confidence now, our Quadrant. Spoke about Sentinels trying to slow it down. They haven't been successful so far, but a big double kill from LethuL. And that will stop the push, and that will relieve some of the pressure.
As long as Sentinels can maintain a 5-kill lead here, it just forces Quadrant to do something a little bit different and to kind of up the ante ever so slightly. But Quadrant are doing well to not allow Sentinels to kind of run away with it. I think at 9-2 I was concerned that it could have been one of those games. It still could be. All it takes is another swing, and this looks like it could be a big swing. It's Glory again to just try and do something, but it's just wasting ammo at this point, knowing that he's about to be pushed. Does come out with something though. Glory still just keeping Quadrant in this one.
Glory pulls out a little bit of magic. And will that drive the team forward now? They've gotten a staggered spawn and they can collapse here.
Oh dear.
Glory's dived in a little bit too soon though. It's going to be a trade. They have to immediately turn now, pivot, and look for the other 2 spawners and continue to do this time after time. But just as I say that, bubu gets the pick. Sica's going to be forced to back down straight to the crosshairs of Precision.
Still close though. Still within 5 for Quadrant. But Sentinels are doing very well at answering when Quadrant just have that burst of momentum, and when they start to really try and push for any sort of map presence, there's someone on the Sentinels roster to be waiting. And finally, we see a camouflage now available for Falcated. We spoke about Glory, how he can be a difference maker. Well, Falcated has been that. We saw the stats from Arlington. Despite the top 16 finish for Sentinels, Falcated was still in the top 5 for his KD. Now you can read into that multiple ways, but one thing it will definitely state is he is a player who can put kills on the board. He just needs the rest of the team to be there with him.
Falcated continues to do poke damage. SMD was down to no shields. Snipedrone will get the trade and will re-peek onto Precision, and somehow, some way, Snipedrone managed to get another. Those slays favoring Quadrant just a touch, but still a 6-kill difference as we head towards the end game.
Consistency from Glory. He always is finding angles to finish up kills. He's very aware of the callouts that his teammates are giving him. Now, though, needs to be providing the callouts and just dealing that extra damage before he goes down, but Snipedrone quickly and swiftly finishes his kills off as well. Both teams at the moment actually finishing off damage very successfully, and the communication is so on point. By the way, 15 kills for Precision. If we haven't hammered home what an amazing addition he's been to Sentinels, statistically speaking, he is already showing in this series that he has proved his worth.
Precision is the truth. 3-kill game. bubu backs away into blue. SLG will hold him there too. Now that sitting at the top of driveway, they seem a little bit cautious now. Do Quadrant have to do a little bit of damage, but not looking to give away too many kills. But bubu poked back in to get the trade. 4 kills the difference. Sica and Glory have to wait for their teammates to spawn back up because they're at a little bit of a numbers disadvantage for now. And it's a split spawn. 2 towards blue. Precision's going to fight over towards gold edge. Oh, Sica with the use of the thruster pack gets the kill.
Thought he almost duped himself with the thrust for a second. Sadly, they weren't able to get the camouflage though, and LethuL, if he can clean up this kill, it puts them just 5 away from taking the second map. Snipedrone doing very well to just be an awkward kill though. Again, not allowing the easy trade. Eventually the grenades will be his demise, but now we're going to see Sentinels with the chance just to surround the Quadrant roster because they have the extra player, they got that initial pick. The delay of the kill actually may have helped Sentinels as they're only 4 away from taking map 2.
Make it 3. LethuL tried to close distance to go for the trade. Unsuccessful on this occasion, though. Falcated over towards Loop, pressing forward. Sica could have been the point of contact. He got tagged up just a touch. He'll know he's there. Sica down to no shields now with a shock rifle. Strips it away. Snipedrone on the driveway. Continues to take damage. SLG there too. 1 kill required. And it could be coming the way of SLG if he's not too careful. Glory's there to help. And it is. LethuL locks it in. 1-1 the series score.
And that's massive for Sentinels as well. I was worried it could have been one of those games that just starts to go heavily in the favor of Sentinels, but Quadrant, they were clawing back over and over, but Sentinels consistently shut them down. They had an answer for every question that was posed by the Quadrant roster. Now they find themselves all tied up in the series, and now they can start to relax themselves. I think getting a victory on the board in your first series, or your first game of the day on the main stage is always important for both sides. Now it's all even Stevens.
I think it's important you note as well how every time Quadrant seemed to climb back into it, Sentinels were just there to put a little arm out and keep them out of reach and out of touch and distance. And every single time Quadrant appeared to be getting back into it, a camouflage would go the way of Sentinels, and they'd start to build on things once more. Very well played from the boys in red.
Yeah, they just kept them at arm's length, didn't they, really? And had they not, then it would have been a scenario where they could have been 2-0 down against the home favourites. Crowd gets loud, crowd gets rowdy, and they start to worry. But now they can refocus. They can start to actually think about where they go from here. And Precision was the man who was the man with a plan.
Just a man.
He was
just a man.
Just merely a man, but
Just
sometimes
an ordinary man.
sometimes looked like more, like a god with what he was able to do. I think Sentinels, that's what they required. When they really lacked something in the previous event, we were asking, well, what is it? Why are they performing like this? And I think having someone who has that X factor, who can put up stats like that, is very, very important and could be the difference maker for not just this series, but Sentinels tournament as a whole.
There were big shoes to fill when Spartan fell. Precision slotted right back in and fit like a glove almost, it has to be said. He has got superstar potential, and he's going to be needed in these big series. 1-1 the score. King of the Hill recharge, Dan. I know you've got something.
I mean, again, I still think this one favors Quadrant. I think this is a very good series layout for Quadrant in the first 3, but then it starts to trend towards Sentinels as we get to 4 and 5. So that game 2 is bigger than you think. And we always mention how Slayers are going to be massive in which way it swings when we look at a series layout. But Quadrant could have been going into King of the Hill recharge thinking, all right, well, this could be the series. Instead, now they're saying, well, even if we win this, we still have to go up against the Sentinels roster on maps that they are very strong at.
And it's something that we can talk about. You know, strongholds, once you have them in your control, it's very much about slaying and keeping on the move, keeping the game very fast-paced. A little bit of chaos in there as well, but with King of the Hill, you have got to be more structured. And will that lean into Sentinel's strengths?
I think it should, especially with what we've just seen in that Solitude game as well, as we look at a couple of the players to watch. I mean, 2 of the players we were mentioning as well, both were grabbing camouflages, both were looking to be those players that make a difference, Glory and Falcated. And I think that both of them are going to be key factors here in match number 3 as well, because if either of them have a flat game, then it suddenly leaves the rest of the team saying, okay, well, how do we pick up that slack? Who's going to suddenly add some of that slaying power to the roster? And even though we have seen Snipedrone do it, we've seen SLG do it, of course, we were just talking about Precision doing it as well. I think it's the consistency in which both of these players perform every single game at putting up an average amount of kills that makes them such an integral part of their rosters.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you never really get a 4 out of 10 performance from these 2 players. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get that 6, 7, 8 out of 10 every single time. And you know that if you're going to lose a game or lose a series, it wasn't really anything to do with them. They done the job they needed to do.
Well, we're on coach watch here at Twickenham. Kronos, of course, has been alongside some of these Quadrant players for quite some time now. And there's always the extra responsibility. I said earlier the crowd can be, you know, the 5th player of this team, but technically the 6th player, because the coaches have a very important role here.
Just at the moment, there's been a little bit of lull in the crowd. So some murmurs. They haven't been as loud as maybe some might have expected, and that's probably because of what Sentinels have been doing.
Probably because Snipedrone went to the toilet, so everyone's just like, all right, well, the game's not going to start just yet. Let's go, let's get our refreshments, and then we're back in, locked in, hand warmers within the hands of said Snipedrone. It looks like match 3 is about to get going. Now, Quadrant, if they do find themselves 2-1 behind here, that's when the crowd probably gets a little bit antsy and starts to think, well, maybe this one isn't going to go our way. If you can get the belief back into them, you can start to hear that noise again. You can build from that momentum.
A player I want to highlight is actually going to be Sica on this squad. A player that, you know, we speak about Glory and Snipedrone and what they bring to the team, and SLG, the years of experience that he has, but Sica has been almost criminally underrated for too long, and when they got that third place finish, I really feel like he came into his own, and finally everybody else started to recognize what a talented player this guy is. And now we can see how big he can be for the team. When you need a job done, no matter what it is, he can be the man for you.
Well, fist bumps all round means game is about to be underway, and I agree. I think that one of the beautiful things about Sica is he's very reserved when he's in the game, but as soon as he gets that victory, he just erupts, and you get to see the celebration from him, and he is a key factor for this Quadrant team. But now they need to answer back because they've allowed Sentinels back into this series. They've given Sentinels that belief that this pool could be entirely theirs, or at least top 2 could be theirs. You need to shut them down.
This series could have huge implications on what way the pool is going to go. They've got some big sharks in here. No fish is safe. On board with Glory, camouflage already ripe for the picking. Dubu continues to jiggle peek on the glass, take damage. Sica goes for the camouflage, gets cut down. Glory gets close, puts down some damage onto Precision, pops the camouflage, so he at least has the opportunity of a burn, which he will use. 4 dead for Quadrant off the rip.
Yeah, and as you said, no fish safe, and it was Qui-Gon Jinn who said there's always a bigger fish, and Optic Gaming, of course, waiting in this pool as well, who will be eagerly hoping that they can take down one of these teams, or take down the Quadrant roster that they would face afterwards. We were lucky enough to already see Optic versus Sentinels early on today. But now with Sentinels getting that early start, denying that camouflage here for Quadrant, just means they're the chance to set up a little bit around this first hill.
I'd appreciate if we don't make too many Phantom Menace. Well, I'm just going to keep going. Annie.
Yeah, you can't make too many.
Can't do too many. But that's my one for now. But if you go again, I get to.
All right, well, I'll stop.
Okay. One man is not going to stop. There's Bubu with the shock rifle. In the hill, feet planted. Goes looking for Glory and finds him. Hunting for Sica. Hits his shields. Wasn't quite able to adjust the head. These two continue to dance now on top elevator. Falcated comes out to Victor. Perhaps Snipedrone would love to have that fight back.
And that's 1-0 locked in for Sentinels. Just after that initial break, they were able to get the structure that they desired, the structure that we expect from a team with this much history and some players that have been around the merry-go-round, it might be said. As for Quadrant, they now need an answer back in this game particularly. Now this hill is one of the more difficult ones if you don't lock down certain positions. And with camouflage coming up, you need to be making sure someone's at least aware of it or going for it. Somehow, Sica gets pushed from behind, but I think that was because of the opening frags from the likes of bubu.
Glory last man standing, and barely standing at that. LethuL puts him away now. Bubu has that camouflage, has the grapple, and has a kill on the Snipedrone.
What doesn't he have?
The whole world appears to be his oyster for now. And recharges playground. Sica over towards yellow steps. Glory's in pipes. Bubu's gone hunting, and Bubu's found one. Perhaps waiting for that shock rifle to come off the spawn, looking to grapple it. It is up now. And he's going to tip over and scoop it up. Grappling now over towards C-Plat. Straight in the face of one. Can he lock in the second one? The answer is no. But will just about Spider-Man his way out of dodge.
Yeah, just about survives, and all the meanwhile was enough of a distraction to allow Sentinels to pop that second point on the board here. Quadrant, even though they had the hill first, it was just those opening kills that really didn't allow them to set up properly, and then the camouflage, of course, they were aware of, but perhaps just were a little bit too eager to get into that hill initially. And at the moment, Sentinels just have been far more patient when it comes to some of their pushes and some of their setups, and they've been rewarded for it.
Quadrant a little bit too frantic. LethuL with the shock. It's good for one. Look at the lineup a second. Precision's there. Has to reload. Tries to get close to get the melee on the Sica, but Precision's there to get a double kill and also pick up whatever was left, whatever remnants were on the ground of that shock rifle. Bubu is in hill. And Quadrant are really struggling in this game number 3.
Yeah, Quadrant are missing something at the moment, and I think it's just there's a difference in pace between a couple of the players. Someone's there just a second before the other, and then the trade doesn't happen, or they don't get the kill that they thought they were going to achieve. And Sentinels are lapping that up. They're almost expecting the push to happen, and there, another one right in front of your very eyes. Glory just getting caught out, trying to make a little bit of a play, but was alone. It's almost like Sentinels are just setting traps around the map, waiting for a Quadrant member to fall right into it.
It was Sentinels who traveled a different continent, but it's Quadrant whose timing is off. And it's been enough, it's been significant. They've been so disjointed in this game. Still time to bring it back. But they're running out of room for error. Camouflage is down. Does Precision know it's there? Of course he does. That information was passed over. He's popped it into his chest. And he will stay in the hill for just a moment before dipping away into pipes. They can start to run the clock down now. They can make Quadrant desperate.
And look, Quadrant, they get 3 dead, but they haven't found the camouflage player, and that's going to be so frustrating for them. Well, never mind, because Snipedrone was able to just catch that camouflage player off guard. And that is massive. That could be a turn in the tide for them. They needed something just like that to really put themselves back into the question of this game.
LethuL receives 3 shots, top tower. Gets his shields popped in the end. Bubu Dubu also down on double stacks, and as he clambers up towards Needles. Has he been spotted? The answer is yes. They've got tabs on him. They've dealt with the threat for now. Sica's in the respawn screen as well. LethuL's going to join him. Quadrant have the numbers advantage now. Snipedrone's going to step in. 1v1 against Precision. 3 shots in. And his teammate on hand. SLG will secure the hill. Precision will get the kill. This next one's going to be huge.
The crowd enjoying that one, but I think Quadrant enjoying it too, because boy did they need it. And it was just 1-4 dead. Well, it was a 3 dead and 1 later for Quadrant. That allowed them to get that initial setup, and it allowed Snipedrone to get into an anchoring position when he's at his very best. He knows when to peek, he knows which angles to take, and now he has the shock rifle. Sentinels again find themselves 3 dead, so this is going to be a good chunk of time, but that camouflage is spawning. And Quadrant have not done well at getting the camo. It has been all about Sentinels utilizing the grapple to get hold of it themselves.
Do Quadrant now risk map control to secure the camouflage?
They should.
Bubu has scooped it up. Bubu's dead. It's going to be a burn. They have map control, and they have numbers. 2 down for Sentinels. Can they spot them out? I thought for a second Snipedrone had been stuck, but it appears as though I was wrong. Back into the hill he goes. Falcated's back blue. This is a great position for Falcated to be, just to make this a very difficult task. Snipedrone's trying to milk the hill for as long as possible, but Bubu's there to shut him down.
Definitely a lot more coordinated now from Quadrant, but 3 full. Again, you're looking at a player like Snipedrone to hit one of those shots to be the difference maker when the push is happening from Sentinels, but now they get the chance to set up themselves. Always important to have a shroud in your back pocket, just to save you in scenarios like that too.
Bubu with shock. Could be instrumental in what way this hill's going to be heading. Sica's down, as is SLG. Glory could be about to join him if he's not too careful. Snipedrone's heading towards bottom middle. Last man standing now. Snipedrone, huge damage, but has got to back away and needs to live, and he won't do so. And that's going to be more staggered spawns. This is huge now for Sentinels. 1 more hole should be good enough.
Yeah, I think Glory thought he was going to be able to push out, be aggressive, and be unspotted by the Sentinels roster, but as soon as he was seen, it just allowed them to play those grenades onto double stack. Precision gets yet another. He will take this fight all day, but SLG holds strong. Needed to as well. They needed a kill like that to be able to break this setup. But still, Sentinels somehow, some way, are holding a lot of presence around this hill.
Bubu was throwing nukes. Sica was forced to back away. Bubu had initial damage and capitalizes on it too. Very little time now required for Sentinels to secure this one. And they're getting a little bit desperate now, our Quadrant. 3 dead. 3 men from Sentinels in and around the hill, and they will capture it.
3-1, 1 minute 34 left on the clock, and we've got to go bottom middle. So Sentinels, I imagine they could just decide to play the clock here if they would like. Camouflage is there though, and you know, we've seen a lot of glory on that camouflage, but it's not going to be happening here on recharge. 3 do go down for Sentinels though, so this is a chance for Quadrant. They just need to be kind of dancing around that hill, enough to keep that clock at a winnable position. If they allow to get it too low, I think Sentinels will just be able to play in such a defensive manner that will deny Quadrant's attempts here.
Glory with camouflage. Can he begin to dictate play? Pull the strings here. Precision stays alive for the moment. Camouflage is burned. We speak about the slaying power on the side of Sentinels. Look at the game LethuL's having. 21, 5, and 13. Instrumental in why they're winning this game.
Yeah, we spoke about the consistent players in each roster, but there's also the players who can have those massive games that can change things for their side. LethuL's having one of them here today. 58 seconds left. Quadrant do have control of the hill, though. If they can make this 3-2 with still a good 50 seconds left, it's still very winnable, still very achievable to take it towards OT. And it looks like Sentinels, they'll give one last push just to try and force Quadrant out here, but they don't want to overcommit and then allow Quadrant to have the back-to-back setups.
It's always a risk to play time. King of the Hill is set up. When you step into the hill, the clock stops. 2 dead for Quadrant, though. Snipedrone did see a shock rifle there, opted not to pick it up this time, though. Continues to fire over towards bubu, but they got a player positioned behind them. That's perfect from Sentinels. Do a little poke damage, back away, your teammate gets the kill. Sica in a 1v1, Sica wins it.
A lot of 1v1s that we've seen Quadrant just coming out on top of. Had they not, then this game would have already been done, but they're just keeping themselves alive, just doing enough. Snipedrone trying to do exactly the same. That's what they need. They need to be stepping up. They need to be winning these fights, as they will lock in a second hill, but now only 21 seconds left to try and get in any sort of position to start scoring. But Precision and Falcated, they're already over there. 2 kills go in favor of Sen. 14 seconds left. Quadrant with one last push here.
Your money might not jiggle, but Snipedrone does. Running out of time now. Precision, standing guard. Glory slides forward, but straight into the crosshairs. Running out of time. Sica's in the hill. Can Sentinels clear it out? Camouflage for LethuL. Soaring forward. Eviction orders in hand. Sica's taken care of. LethuL steps out, but Quadrant's still in the hill. Quadrant's still holding, but that's all they have time for. 4 dead. Sentinels win.
And Sentinels take the lead in this series. And even though there was those few moments from Quadrant where they just kept themselves close enough, kept themselves within that grasping chance, sadly, we're not able to get there. A lot of desperate attempts in those final moments, all bundling their way into the hill. They just left it too late. The clock was not on their side, but that was by design from the Sentinels roster, of course. Ever since they went 3-1 up, they were more than happy to put themselves in that scenario. It's always that worrying situation where you're like, is there a chance they're going to be able to do this one? But, you know, the camouflage was going to be the key factor there.
For Quadrant, it must be said, they really lost that in the first couple of hills. The way they played, so disjointed. Not their usual selves, it would seem, and they were like putty into the hands of these Sentinels boys. The difficult thing, Dan, as we look towards the next game in the series, Argyle CTF, you very clearly spoke about how from here on out this series starts to slide the way of Sentinels, and with them already in the ascendancy, that's only trouble for us, isn't it, really?
I mean, it certainly trends toward the old style of Sentinels, Spartan with the sniper rifle on Argyle CTF, but you give it to Precision, you give it to Falcated, they can also do damage. I think it's going to come down to who's hitting their shots a little bit better, because there's fantastic snipers on both sides of these teams. But the momentum now shifts towards Sentinels, and this was what I was maybe a little bit concerned about, because as soon as you get into these heavily focused sniper maps, if you're a team like Sentinels who's playing in a much more kind of structured manner, they should be able to take a game like this. Whereas Quadrant, they did look a little bit disjointed at times, and it was a surprise in the early stages. They can't afford to go 1 down here in Argyle, right? It was all right. They were able to just crawl their way back in to recharge. They were able to crawl their way back in at times on Slayer Solitude. You can't really crawl your way back in on CTF Argyle. If you go 1 down to a team who knows how to play it, you are going to have a bad day.
It'll be a long night. You're down by 1 on CTF Argyle. You can watch that time dwindle away and just really never get close to capturing a flag. And looking at the CTF defensive woes, Dan, average caps for Quadrant. This, of course, against European opposition. It looks good for Quadrant, but it must be said, Sentinels playing against higher tier players, so their stats are not going to look as juicy.
Yeah, when you look at Quadrant stats, I mean, we know what they can do and the damage that they do it in Europe as well, but you look at when they face North American teams who can rival them in the way that they snipe and the way that they move, that's when we've seen Quadrant struggle typically in the past. So we just need to see Quadrant get a lead here, and then it'll be a very different game for them. But I'm just concerned that Sentinels, with how they've been playing, the momentum they have on their side now, if they were to get that first flag, it might be all she wrote. So the first flag going to be so crucial here on Argyle, as it always is.
If seeds are going to dictate things, and with the way the pool is set up, Dan, we call this from the pool of death. Optic in there, who you would expect and everyone would expect to be top of the pool. This one was really for second and third, if the way they're going to go the way they are. Sentinels in the ascendancy. Sentinels 1 away, and Quadrant have got to win this one here to keep their hopes alive of taking down the series.
Although, that being said, we have seen Quadrant beat Optic before, of course, very famously at Optic's home turf, on their home ground. And we'll have to see however that goes down later on, because that will also feature on the main stage. Quadrant versus Optic will be coming up after this series. And at the moment, it's Sentinels who have the lead, and it's the sniper rifle battle I was talking about. Precision has that responsibility on his shoulders, and boy, is he a joy to watch, and has been phenomenal so far this series.
Takes the sniper rifle out of the back pocket, swinging a miss on one. Nothing connects to the first three. I think Dan might have cursed them. Or perhaps he can spare his flushes here. Body shot connects. Falcated on hand to provide the assist. Almost with a fadeaway no scope as well. Snipedrone gets a trade, a big trade with the way that flag was positioned.
Yeah, Falcated knew he had to get aggressive. He had to push that kill initially. If he had just kept running, he would have gone down anyway. But Quadrant do send that flag home. One thing you might have noticed from those stats is the success rate that Quadrant have at returning flags. They're pretty good off spawn and knowing which angles to be taking and where to be planting those grenades to deny any sort of flag run. So for all I say that the first flag is going to be very important, I can promise you Quadrant are going to make it difficult for Sentinels to get that flag to their own base. Which you'd hope anyway, it's the aim of the game. But SLG has a sniper rifle, Glory has the sniper rifle. Glory's found 3 kills elsewhere. It's all 4 dead, the flag is moving, and it's all looking good for the green team.
The man from Cork can do it all. 3 kills with the sniper rifle and picks up the flag as well. You can be an objective player and a slayer at the same time, it would seem. He's a 2-on-1. You've heard of Swiss Army knives. This one's Irish. 1-0 to Quadrant.
And boy, did they need that. Not just to breathe life back into the room, but also for their chances in this game. To deny Sentinels to have that lead, to be able to play with structure. Now, they force Sentinels to just up the ante, to play a little bit faster. And that is typically when Sentinels would struggle, where Quadrant can take advantage of just taking a pure Slayer fight against them. But it was that sniper rifle of Glory that really did make the difference. We saw Precision earlier, miss a couple of shots, but then on the kill feed, it was all Glory with what could have been a triple kill for all we know. But as you mentioned, he was also there waiting to pick up the flag.
He got it again. The wig wobbler. As he heads up towards mid-map now. Waiting for his latest victim. Gets one. Falcated in the grave. 3 dead for Sentinels. Bubu gets a big kill, and that could just hurt the progress of this one. Heading towards screens. Almost lines up Falcated. Got the QT as well. This flag appears to be making inroads now towards home base. Glory not doing a lot of damage, but as I say that, rips the face off one. The flag down. Quadrant patiently waits. Snipedrone slides in. 2-0 to score.
So important that Quadrant went for that second flag as well. They recognized they were in the ascendancy. They had the kills going in their favor. They were out slaying Sentinels in that moment. And they took advantage of the momentum. They didn't just sit back. They didn't just take the 1-0 lead, which we have seen teams win on Argyle capture the flag. And now if Sentinels were going to have to up the pace previously, now even more so. Still 8 minutes remaining. That's one of the upsides for Sentinels here, is there's plenty of time. But it has been the sniper rifle that's made the difference for Quadrant.
Quadrant with 30 kills. Sentinels with 21. Separated by 9. 2 caps the difference though. And that's the score that really matters here. 2 to the good. Bubu dubu and Falcated in the grave. Precision trying to put a stop to this one and does. Gets a double kill and a big one at that.
Yeah, if anyone's going to step up now, it has to be a player like Precision. Seeing what Glory was doing in the kill feed, he has to replicate that some way, but doesn't have a sniper rifle to do so. So instead, you need to be working together, pushing together to overwhelm the Quadrant roster. But
oh, Sica.
Sica stands strong.
He was wobbling.
LethuL does clean it up, but it looks like Quadrant, there's always that extra player for Quadrant at the moment. This is what they were missing in some of the earlier games. That extra player had already fallen in the previous maps. But now they're being a nuisance. They're like cockroaches just surviving around every corner, and Sentinels can't quite burn them down.
Sica now, exploring his options. Falcated down to no shields, using the grapple to get away. He will live for now. LethuL lands a Lovely body shot. Sica forced to back away. Glory lands a body shot onto Bubu. Drives his team forward now. They have numbers advantage. 3 dead for a moment for Sentinels. Precision just about avoids that headshot. But Glory's just in the pocket with the sniper rifle, causing carnage right now.
Wow, he started off patient there, but he recognized and listened. Heard that they started to retreat. If you turn your back to Glory, you know full well he's going to jump down with a sniper rifle, take advantage. Now Snipedrone again moving that flag. 3 dead for Sentinels temporarily. 3rd flag's on the go here. And it's Glory again at the helm saying, look, you run it, I'll get the kills.
He's been clinical so far. And I'll tell you something, if Quadrant are going to win this, it's off the back of what he's been doing. Snipedrone driving this one home. 2 in the grave for Sentinels. Takes damage, gets shut down. Is there anybody else on hand to slide in and punch this one home?
Glory's there, Sica's just below, they need to work together. Bubu's gonna have one last ditch attempt, but he goes down. Here comes the slide, and here comes the game. As we're going to a game 5, Quadrant will not fall.
Quadrant stand tall. Of course, this series is going to deliver a game 5.
And the band in-house starting to make some noise with the rest of the crowd as they want to have a party, they want to have a celebration party.
Just want to say 180 on the top of my lungs. What a performance from Quadrant. Dan, that was not close. That was definitive.
That was why Glory was added to the team. And we've been waiting to see a game like that where we can truly say that one man can make a huge difference if you give him the right weapons, the right tools, the right positions, but an unsung hero has to be Snipedrone. He was always in there, grabbing the flag. I know Glory had that potential triple and then he got the flagpole, but Snipedrone was constantly in the face of Sentinels, not allowing them to push out off spawn, always taking those 1v1s and then running the flag afterwards. Snipedrone, who often plays this anchor role, often plays the sniper role. The good thing about having 2 players that have, well, 3 players, 4 players that know how to play that role is that if you have a sniper in that position, you know full well you are comfortable from certain angles and you are going to be able to safely push into certain areas.
That's the key word, right? Safety. You know when Glory is standing behind you and he's got the scope out, you know you can push certain angles because even if you do start to get shot, he will land the body shot to help you out in that fight. And Snipedrone, more like Flagdrone, driving that one home for his team. And we're going to a game 5. I know you're going to tell me this one favors, but the form goes out the window.
I mean, the form's been out the window.
It's a shootout.
Apart from Stronghold's live fire that went the way of Quadrant, it's been the other way for both teams with form, with consistency, with what we've seen before. But this happens a lot, right? The teams practice the game types that they were bad at the previous event, that they've been struggling in scrims. Slayer Streets, well, when it comes to game 5s, you would always look towards a team like Sentinels who have that experience, have that history to be able to clutch up in the moment. But again, momentum always will play a part in any game of Halo.
And how funny is it that we know as teams, they have some bad game types. They go back after a tournament and they get stronger on those game types. But they seem to then rest on their laurels with some of the ones that they were stronger at and they lose some ground on them. And they find themselves, oh, we think this one's in the bag for us, but actually it's not.
Well, Snipedrone, the leading player with the highest KD at the moment on Quadrant, is Precision, who's been doing the most damage on the flip side, and 2 players who play very different roles but also can be the star players at the right time. And you know what, we can look at stats, we can look at KD, but let's look at what happened in the previous game, right? Glory gets a sniper rifle. Had he not had that big moment when he got the triple, or what was close to a triple, could have been Sentinels starting to build momentum. They could have got structure on the map. They could have been the team. It was just before that happened. Precision had that sniper rifle, missed a couple of shots, wasn't able to have that pop-off moment, and those are the minor differences that can really change a game.
And even for just your confidence alone, if you hit them shots, you silence the crowd, or you hear a pop in the crowd, all of a sudden you start to line up a few more shots. And that's exactly what Glory did. He started to hit a couple of shots, people started to get a bit loud, and he started to feel himself. Confidence can be such a huge issue and such a huge factor in Halo. But we're underway in our game 5. Slayer, we're rocking and rolling, folks.
Well, can Quadrant give the reason to the band to play once more and get the crowd on their feet? Or are we going to see Sentinels just quieten everyone down? Well, at the moment, it's Glory carrying that momentum from game 4 right into game 5 with the Bulldog. It's a 3-kill lead. Camo's about to spawn. And the Shroud used effectively to ensure that Quadrant can get this. So not only do they have the early lead, but now they've got the power up too.
Sica will be hoping the boys can tune the band. And they can land the sweet chin music. They've got 2 in the grave for now. They've answered back though. Sica desperately trying to live, but being hassled, being harried. Precision is there. Double kill locked in. We're all square. Excuse me, 8-6. My eyes aren't where they used to be. There was 2 kills in the difference and remains that for now. Snipedrone slides out on no shields. It was ill-advised. Straight into the welcoming arms of LethuL's bandit rifle. Double kill for him and he rolls away.
Yeah, good response here from Sentinels, even though the camouflage didn't go their way. Now it is all tied up. Don't worry about your eyes. It's maybe just foresight at this point. Suddenly, Sentinels take the lead. And this could end up being a very nervy game of Street Slayer as well, if it's back and forth. But all 4 dead on the side of Sentinels. Hands back favor to Quadrant once more, and they know where they're spawning. And typically, Snipedrone the one who would anchor, get damage from a distance, and then he sends the rest of the boys in to do the damage. But they're waiting. They're not sure where Sentinel's going to come from. So they say, look, you come to us and we'll take the fight. But Precision from distance. LethuL was just bait there.
Perhaps they'd love to have that one back. Just handing the initiative over to Sentinels. And they'll capitalize on that all day long. You have to be the one to make the decisions, be the aggressor, push the envelope. And they allow Sentinels to come out on every different route and they lose the fights. And now Sentinels in control of the map. Sentinels have the bulldog.
It reminds me a little bit of when Snipedrone used to be on the Ascend roster. This game type in particular, where they had the lead right towards the end of the game against Native, and then just those few kills didn't go their way because they gave them the initiative, because they held off and they forced them to do something. Sometimes the best form of defense is offense, and maybe that'll be a lesson learned for Quadrant just in that moment. But 18 all. Glory has plenty of opportunity to move around the map in which way he wants here, but he's very aware of the spawns, probably being communicated by the rest of the team. He's got it again. This is a dangerous loadout.
And again, he's been entrusted with the weapons to carve a hole in the Sentinels' defense, to drive his team forward. He gets cut down without having too much of an influence with the weapons. Falcated gets 2, and a big 2. SLG back tower. Both teams continue to jiggle peek, continue to do damage, poke and prod, try and find some weaknesses. And a full rotation from Sentinels now as they abandon the arcade side and move over towards Tram and L.
Sentinels are moving as a unit far better than Quadrant.
Oh.
Almost a triple for Falcated as well there. As SLG just scarpers away. But Quadrant, they're a bit sporadic at times. Glory playing extremely fast, and it has worked out when he's had that Bulldog in his hand, so there's not any real complaints with a tight game like this. They just need to be careful they don't get caught off too often. As for Sentinels, they have that small lead now they can work with. And you can almost feel it. The Sentinels, they want to slow this game down. They want to gain the lead and say to Quadrant, right, what have you got to try and break our setups? But Quadrant off spawn, they are always holding forward. They are always pressing. They're always taking the fights. But at the moment, Falcated with a killing spree, he's been able to shut them down one by one.
Pressing forward, but too often putting themselves in peril. 3 kills now. Make it 4. SLG top tower down a couple of shots now. LethuL gets Snipedrone, and the collapse is coming. Imagine these 2 players have not got long for this world. Glory, a big trade would be huge here. Cannot secure it for his team. LethuL gets the kill, and they'll continue to roll forward, and you cannot see them stand still. They are going to drive forward, and this is what Quadrant should have done.
A few desperate cries from the crowd as well, as tension starting to raise now. You could feel the shift in the room as it's an 8-kill lead for Sentinels. We've been in a lot of home arenas, Optic, SSG, and now for Quadrant here. What have they got left? 7 kills behind. Only 14 needed for Sentinels now. It's still within touching distance. But there is an element of control now for this Sentinel squad, who are really setting the pace of this game, denying the speed that Quadrant want to play.
Just taking this thing out of the game. Forcing Quadrant to think about the decisions a little bit more. More risk, less reward. Down by 9 now. Bubu pushes forward, looking for a bait and switch. Snipedrone gets 1. Falcated answers back with a double kill. Precision's there as well. 7 required. And Quadrant just have not got going in this game 5.
What a turnaround this has been from Sentinels in this game. As soon as they were given that little bit of wiggle room to take control, boy, have they seized it. And what an important game it could be when we look at how Sentinels, how far they can go in this tournament, whether they can reach that top 4 placement again that we would expect from a team like this. To be able to push themselves into the top 2 of this pool would be massive for their chances. And at the moment, it's trending that way, but there's still a small amount of hope for Quadrant here. Just need to deny some of these kills, but LethuL happy to take the fights. And that double kill might be the first nail in the coffin here for Quadrant.
When LethuL's hitting shots like that, Quadrant and everybody else better be put on notice. 4 required now. It's a long road back. There's still some hope. The crowd start to get loud, and maybe they believe. But do Quadrant. 2 more in their favor. It's a 4-kill game now.
This is a split spawn in the moment for Sentinels. They are under pressure. Quadrant have to take advantage of it. Start to pinch, start to prod, start to put as much damage in with precision. Dancing around, but it is now a 3-kill game. Camouflage in the hand. It's a 2-kill game. And all of a sudden, is it falling apart for Sentinels here as Quadrant begin to believe?
Hold the phone. Maybe there's a chance. LethuL falls. 1 kill required. 3. Precision locks it in. Game 5 victory for Sentinels.
That's one of the most animated reactions I've ever seen from LethuL on the main stage as well. So you could see what it meant for him to silence the crowd, to silence the home team. A huge win for Sentinels and their chances of moving forward in this competition in an advantageous seed. For Sentinels, it is, of course, about getting that victory and how good it's going to feel. But for Quadrant, they now have to go into the series against Optic Gaming knowing that they were only a few kills away from taking down Sentinels.
And how often do we hear that about a lower seeded team or even just a European team that they were so close? And they'll go back to the hotel later on, they'll analyze the footage and they'll say, if this had just gone our way, if I turned left instead of right, maybe the whole complexion of this series is different. And I want to speak about Sentinels, about the bounce back in that game 5. You go down 3-0 in that Argyle, which typically is a very good game type for them. They bounce back in the Slayer. And they look dominant at times, up until that little nervy finish, but it's always seemed to be in the bag.
Even though it was a nervy finish, you could see that the call-outs were very much communicated effectively by Sentinels. Just that damage that was done with beatdowns and the one-shots that were available. Precision in particular, putting himself in harm's way to ensure that he did clean up what was available and to finish that game. 50-47 looks very close, and it was. I think when Quadrant look back, it's going to be that King of the Hill recharge for me. The initial 2 hills where they were a little bit flat off the back of that Slayer, and again, that could be pressure. It could be one of those moments where they were so high off the first victory, they get shut down immediately in map number 2 on the Slayer, and then they start to think, okay, maybe we're not going to be able to do this for the fans here. Very impressed with the response from Sentinels, but we have to look at the positives for Quadrant as well. It's not like this is going to be the end of their tournament, right? It's still just pool play for them. The downside is now they have to go into the Optic series with a win. They need a win to give themselves that chance of getting into the winner's bracket rather than playing through elimination.
And that is, you spoke about the response that they could have in maybe at the end of that series and in that series in general, but you speak about it on the horizon for them now. Up next, Optic Gaming. They don't even have to leave the main stage. They can leave all their stuff there, get comfortable. But now they're playing against one of the heavyweights, one of the big boys, and Optic Gaming, they're going to be coming to play.